What's going on, everybody? My name is C4. Welcome back to the channel. And in today's video, we are going to finish out the outstanding start to the 2024 NFL Draft by going to the last of the premier picks. We're doing a day 2 mock draft. We're going to go through the second and third rounds here and try to continually crush it for every single... I think almost every fan of a team that picked in the first round is happy, unless you're an Atlanta Falcon fan. I think, and that's bizarre, but I think it was a outstanding first round for almost every team. And I'm going to try to seal the deal with great second and third rounds ahead of what we're going to see tonight live. And speaking of live, shout out to everybody that tuned into my somewhat impromptu first round reaction stream last night. We peaked at 450 viewers, and that was pretty badass. And big shout out to everyone that came, chilled, vibed. Vitamins were on deck. We got to lose our minds when I thought Philadelphia was going to get Tyler Guyton. My Jalen Reagor, Nelson Aguilar, Derek Barnett, Andre Dillard type pick. He was still there. He was the only tackle there. Of course, that would go. And then they went Quinion Mitchell, which is insane. We got to see the Penix to the Falcons, which makes no sense whatsoever. Brock Bowers going to the Raiders. Bo Nix, the Cowboys pick. Malik Neighbors going within the NFC East, which is annoying. Jaden Daniels coming off the board, and Drake May falling. It was a great time. Big shout out to everyone that stopped in. And things can change. I'm a father too, but the plan is tonight we're going live again, but only for the second round. Biasly, that's because the Philadelphia Eagles have 2 second-round picks. But we're going to be going live here on YouTube for the second round. I don't get another 5-hour stream in me, so I'm not doing the third round. Eagles also don't have a pick there as it stands. So let's go second round, live reactions here on YouTube. Let's come hang out. But first thing is first, let's go through a day 2 mock draft here. There's still some outstanding players that have fell in the first round, and the Buffalo Bills are on the clock. After trading out multiple times, and I'm going to be honest, when I was making these trades to get this accurate, kind of surprised me. I thought the first trade they made with the Chiefs, it's the Chiefs. They're your bitter division. Make them overpay. You just gifted them Xavier Worthy for like this. I'm using walkthemock.com. So I'm just going to show you how it looks. Like when I make a trade partner, let's say we're going to, they give you value of every single pick, which is pretty badass. And when I made the value of every trade that happened, it made sense. It was equal value. But when I made this one with the Chiefs, this was the only trade that happened in the first round where it was like almost a 100-point difference. Like the Bills were giving up 100 points worth of trade value, perceived trade value. And I was like, that is brutal. It's the Chiefs. You got to be flipping them the bird. They want to trade up. So let's go here for the Buffalo Bills. On the clock at pick 1. Wide receivers, there's still a plenty of wide receivers for them to go out and get, which I think is certainly a need for them. But I think you're looking at the big board, and the biggest name that has fallen, I think I look at why he maybe fell. We had a quote last night. You're putting on a shirt. Keep the dream of DEJEAN for the Philadelphia Eagles. I would love to see him go get him. I think when you're the Buffalo Bills, if he fell in the first round, that means teams have doubts whether or not he's going to be a corner. And they might be pigeonholing him as a safety. And I think a team that needs a safety desperately is the Buffalo Bills. So we're starting the second round off. The Bills going DB and getting Cooper DeJean. Gambling that with their other second round pick, there's still going to be a game changer at wide receiver. And I think with the depth there, there's going to be someone pretty good. Up next, we have the Patriots, who went Drake May in the first round. Love that selection. Patriots are another team. Offensive tackle is their top need arguably right now. But I'm going to be honest. I think you have to go and get the most Patriot. He's not there no longer in Bill Belichick. But I think the most Patriot player that is there is badass. He's my highest rated wide receiver left. Ladd McConkey goes in and is instantly wide receiver 1 for the New England Patriots. Day 1 contributor. Got a lot of comparisons. Garrett Wilson, measurables of Garrett Wilson. Pro comp. Athletically, another name that I saw was Roddy White from the guy that runs the Raz site. That makes a lot of sense. He's a dog. Absolute dog. He's a Patriot type guy. Up next, we have the Arizona Cardinals at pick 3. Marvin Harrison Jr. and Darius Robinson, D lineman. And I think they're just going to be like, yep, we'll go ahead and just grab Kool-Aid McKinstry there. Get arguably a first-round caliber pick at corner. And they're laughing with that one. Up next, we have at 4, the Commanders. Jaden Daniels handled business. I think they absolutely need to be going and looking at Patrick Paul at offensive tackle. Protect Jaden Daniels. Their tackle room is not particularly great right now. Chargers. Seems like there was kind of a wet fart when they got Joe Alt, who I thought was a home run, especially with the rumors that they're going J.C. Latham. They wanted J.C. Latham over Joe Alt. Very sus. But now looking at the Chargers, the big thing is they are screaming for a wide receiver. And we're going to get them very similar build to Quentin Johnson, maybe even arguably a better athlete. Adonai Mitchell, height, weight, speed, continuing to retool that wide receiver room and get Justin Herbert some weapons. Now you got protection. You got to do the inverse and the opposite of what the Bengals have done for Joe Burrow. Right? You protect first, which is absolutely something that would make sense for how Harbaugh mentally wants to build his team. And then still in the second round, you get a guy that was in the discussion for the first round, and that's outstanding. Now we got the Tennessee Titans. J.C. Latham at tackle at pick 7. Looking at the board available, wide receiver, edge, D, tight end potentially. And I would actually come here and say, all right, well, if this is what we're kind of looking at here for wide receivers, and we know the guys that are available, we're not going to reach. I would say Keon Coleman would be the guy that I would look at. Now, maybe a little bit of concern because you kind of went with a slower gadget-type player in Treylon Burks, and that didn't work out. But Keon Coleman's a dog. Even though he's a little bit slower, game speed's a different thing than running in track shorts. And I think Keon Coleman, I saw enough highlight reel, wow, ridiculous plays to say in the second round all goddamn day. Next up, we have at pick 7, the Carolina Panthers. And they traded up into the first round to get Xavier Legette out of South Carolina. Tough call, right? For the, Panthers clearly need to get weapons for Bryce Young. But it's very much they had pick of the litter for wide receivers that are going to be slipping out of the first round. And they went Legette. With Adonai Mitchell, with more, I think Ladd McConkey would have been my guy. He can eventually succeed Adam Thielen, which is clearly a style of wide receiver they want in their offense. But Legette's not a bad pick at all. Maybe a little worried that he's a one-year wonder in college football, but athletically speaking, the profile is very good. You want to gamble on those traits all day. But after the trade of Brian Burns, I think they do need to look at pass rush as an option. Jerzon Newton still be on the board is interesting. I wonder if they could, it's not a great scheme fit for them, but I would almost just say you need to get the number one player right now. You could double up on wide receiver, but I would make the argument, who is the single most talented player that could affect the pass? And I think that is Jerzon Newton. Great value, shocked maybe outside of McConkey, maybe out of, in the discussion with Cooper DeJean, for like, how did that guy fall in the first round? Johnny Newton out of Illinois very much fits that bill. And maybe interior pass rusher, not the perfect fit for what the Panthers are looking for. But I think if the discussion is had, which one player can help our pass rush the most, it is Newton. You find a way to get him to work with Derek Brown. Now we have back up the Commanders at pick 8. Jaden Daniels, they handle business with Patrick Paul. They're also in the market for an edge rusher. I think it's probably a little early to look tight end for Jatavion Sanders. I think it's a little early to look for linebacker. I think it's a little early to go grab a safety. So I think we go back and we pivot back to edge. And what is the one school that they always love getting players for? Chris Braswell, who I would say underwhelmed a little bit with testing. He was pretty high on Bruce Feldman's freak list. I was expecting bigger combine numbers, but he's almost a 9 RAS edge rusher. And really at that spot, Nealand. Those are probably the two that you want to decide. And Nealand's a little bit more niche, 6'3", 275, a little bit bigger. And we know that Commanders, even though it's a new regime, they love their Alabama players. So that kind of ticks off a box there. Green Bay at pick 9. Surprisingly, go Jordan Morgan at pick 25. I think a lot of people just thought that was going to be Cooper DeJean last night. But we are going to pivot just a little bit here for them, and we're going to look at the other. And I think they go with the top DB in this year's class that's remaining. You look at the corners. Could go corner there. Could go Rakestraw. Could go Sanders still. But for my money, the top safety in this year's class, and you look at what they need safety help. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I'm going to go get them Jaden Hicks from Washington State. Can cover, can hit, can get picks, has ball production. It's not Cooper DeJean, but it's a pretty nice consolation prize. Now we have the Houston Texans with their first pick of the 2024 NFL Draft at pick 10 here in the second round. We got D-line, edge, offensive tackle, corner is what they're looking for. And I would say looking at the D-line options that are currently available, I mean, I've heard some polarizing takes here, but Fisk, and we saw with Quinyon Mitchell going to the Eagles, teams really consistently prioritize guys that improve their draft stock, highlighted by a great Senior Bowl. And that is Fisk from Florida State. So we're going to get a nice interior pass rusher on that D-line for DeMeco Ryans. Pick 11, we have the Atlanta Falcons, who, wow, Michael Penix is certainly an option. Very surprising that they ended up going that direction. Best pass rusher available. We're going to grab them. Marshawn Nealand. Good fit. Can play multiple sides on that front there for them. How about their pass rush? But man, oh man, I still have no way to justify, make sense, whatever you want to say of the Penix. Unless like something's coming with the tampering with Kirk Cousins or something like that, he's gonna get spent. I don't know. It makes no. You pay Kirk Cousins $100 million coming off an AC or Achilles or whatever it was, which is brutal. But like you commit there, and now you got an older quarterback in Penix that has injury history as well. It's a weird spot, and I like Penix. I talked about last night. It's just weird. All right, we got the Raiders, and they're gonna look at the quarterbacks that are available. And I think at this point, this is where I'd pull the trigger because I think there's a gigantic drop off here. You get your quarterback now. If not, someone else is going to be more desperate. And I don't think there's a team more desperate to land a quarterback. All due respect to Gardner Minshew. So we're going to have them go get Spencer Rattler. I think, you look at, no disrespect to Pratt or David, and maybe Milton could arguably maybe have the highest ceiling just because the potential could be off the charts. But there's a lot of work that needs to get there. I think the most reasonable high ceiling quarterback that's available is easily Spencer Rattler. Former 5-star recruit. You saw flashes, be it Oklahoma, South Carolina, of that 5-star arm. It just needs refining. So another situation where you could have Gardner Minshew as your Band-Aid quarterback, your stopgap quarterback, and then you kind of get Spencer Rattler up to speed and see what he can do in 2025. But maybe a reach, but that's what happens with quarterback. If Bo Nix is going in the first round, Spencer Rattler in the second round, makes sense. Checks the box. Pick 13, we have the New Orleans Saints on the clock after getting Fuaga, who they've classified on this side as an interior offensive lineman. I think he's more so an offensive tackle, and that's more of like a Ryan Ramczyk successor plan. Wide receiver edge is kind of, I think we definitely take a look here at wide receiver. Moving on from Micah Thomas, right now they got Chris Olave and Shaheed kind of as their weapons. Not a lot of long-term depth and stability there. So I would come out and I would personally, you could go Franklin. You could go Roman Wilson. You could look at someone like Malachi Corley, who has Deebo Samuel vibes. But I think for their offense, I think they'll go with Roman Wilson. A little bit more of a track record in bigger games. Had huge performances for Michigan over the years. Great athlete, deep threat. She's only on a 1-year deal, so you get stylistically covered if you let him walk next year. And I think he can be a playmaker for them and contribute as a rookie, which they need. Next, we have the Indianapolis Colts at pick 14. They went Latu, who could arguably be the highest floor defensive player in the draft. The medical was the big issue for him. Had to medically retire in college, came out of retirement. You always have that kind of in the back of your mind when drafting a player like this. But I like the move. I now think, though, if we're looking at options here for the Colts, I think you got to go wide receiver. You got to stick at the wideout spot, and we're going to go get them Troy Franklin, wide receiver from Oregon, and complete that wide receiver room. Get as many weapons as you possibly can to aid the development of Anthony Richardson. Josh Downs, Pittman, Troy Franklin, that looks pretty juicy going forward. We have the Giants at 15, going Malik Neighbors. And I will say respectively, out of all the teams that picked in the NFC East last night, and the new players that are coming in the division, Jaden Daniels, Tyler Guyton, Malik Neighbors. Malik Neighbors is the most annoying for me as a Philadelphia Eagle fan. So I would say at this spot, if I am the Giants, I would consider, and I would go Jackson Powers Johnson. The idea that he could play anywhere on the interior, that's a great value pick. I think another player that has slipped due to the medical, some red flags there. But the versatility that he can bring to the interior of the offensive line, be a guard or likely a center spot, I think that's just best value available to continue to improve that offense and deal with the burden that is Daniel Jones and his contract. Now we have the Jags. Got Brian Thomas Jr. They got their DJ Chark swing again. Height, weight, speed, wide receiver from LSU. I think they absolutely now need to target corner. I was kind of surprised. I thought they for sure were going to go corner. And understand that this is the board that is available. I think I would go Lassiter out of Georgia as the next man up there for that defense. I think he has a little bit higher ceiling, tested a little bit better than some of the other corners that were available. So we're going to continue to rock and roll here with the Bengals up next at pick 17, going to Marius Mims. Now, the big thing on Mims, he only played like 8 games, started 8 games in college. So there's a little bit of like maybe is he going to be a day one starter? Is he going to be ready for week 1 to protect Joe Burrow? But I still like the idea of, yes, they went out and they've tried to protect Joe Burrow. That is an absolute dub. But I would now say here at pick 17, it's interesting for the Bengals because it looks like T. Higgins is going to be gone. We saw Trey Hendrickson come in demanding a trade for a new deal. So you could look at some of the edge rushers that are available. You could look on the defensive line, some of these interior pass rushers that could be available, which I think is totally in play. Jatavian Sanders could make sense here at 17. Didn't test the best, but still is a big-time weapon at that tight end spot. Wide receiver, again, you might be losing T. Higgins, and if you lose T. Higgins, you're going to need someone else out there that could step up and make some plays. But I would say, honestly, if this is the board right now, I think the best player available that they could look at Zach Frazier as well. They come in and play center and just go all in on the offensive line. That is the top need for them. You know what? Screw it. I'm going to commit and just put the good vibes in the air of protecting Joe Burrow. So we're going to double up on the offensive line, and we're going to try to build something special there. Up next, we got the Philadelphia Eagles at pick 18. They got Quinyon Mitchell, pick of the litter. And I'm trying to be positive, all right? There's so many corners available for the Philadelphia Eagles. There's the anxiety of, did we make the right pick? Did we get the right guy? You know, is Terry Arnold going to be better? And Quinyon Mitchell, we got Toledo and a nepotism draft pick because Nick Sirianni, the Eagles head coach, his best buddies was roommates with the Toledo head coach, so he obviously had some connections there, which gives off some Jalen Reagor vibes. We drafted Jalen Reagor because his dad used to work for the Eagles over Justin Jefferson. All those vibes are absolutely there. But I'm very happy with that selection. And looking at this board, Edgerrin Cooper can be pretty tough. I mean, it's breaking the mold. Howie Roseman finally paid a running back and brought in Saquon Barkley. Howie Roseman finally drafted a corner. Is Howie Roseman finally going to draft a linebacker? Looking at who else is available for the Eagles' needs, Suamadia fits that bill of a developmental tackle behind Lane Johnson. I could definitely see Jeff Steltman giving him the thumbs up. Jeff Steltman, seal of approval. I also like Roger Rosengarten down here. That's a little bit more of a value pick. I would say here's how I'd handle business for the Philadelphia Eagles. I like Peyton Wilson. I don't know about the medical. That is the only reason. I'd say from a tape standpoint, from a guy that I think fits the Eagles, I like Peyton Wilson. But we are going to go Edgerrin Cooper at pick 18 just because I think there's a little more versatility there. There's some chatter that, you might want to use him a little bit as a pass rusher. So he has that, if I had to explain it and equate it to a player that played for Vic Fangio, I think there's some Van Ginkel to what Edgerrin Cooper can be in the league versus someone like Peyton Wilson, which I think is going to be clearly an off-ball linebacker, would be more competition for Nakobe Dean. I think there's a little bit more versatility with Edgerrin Cooper, but I have also seen people sleep on Edgerrin Cooper and have him closer to a third rounder than a second rounder. But I mean, we're in the middle of the second round. That's not that much of a reach. Gamble on the athlete because we have massive question marks for the Eagles at linebacker. With both Nakobe Dean, we don't know what he's going to be in the NFL, and you have Devin White, which is just a one-year rental. And I think you prepare for the worst, have very low expectations for Devin White, and be excited if there's something there. We have the Steelers, who got Troy Fautano at pick 20. Classified him as a tackle, so that's a good piece of business there. I think they're absolutely another team that is going to be looking for a wide receiver. And now it's stylistically, what are you looking for? Are you looking for the slot guy in Malachi Corley, or is that you're gonna finally let Calvin Austin? I'm kind of looking at their wide receiver room. Interesting wide receiver room. You have George Pickens. I would say with Russell Wilson, I might want to prioritize speed, getting a big-time athlete here. And if you want a big-time athlete with big-time speed, Devontae Walker, 6'3", almost 4'3" speed. I feel like stylistically, that might be the wide receiver you'd want to take a swing at. Also, a little bit maybe arguably more upside than some of these wide receivers there because he has that athleticism, the S-tier athleticism that some of these other wide receivers don't. But good spot for the Steelers. I think Corley can make sense if they want more of like a weapon, versatile weapon. But I feel like you give Calvin Austin a chance. Maybe that's some of my Madden bias each and in. But I feel like he made some plays for them last year. Expand that role a little bit. Have Pickens on the outside. Get Walker that can go on the outside. And give Calvin Austin, give that dude a chance. At 20, we have the Rams on the clock. And corner tackle are kind of their big needs right now. And if they are looking for a tackle, I would personally, I don't think there's that big of a discrepancy. I think I might like Rosengarten the most right now. But Suamadia has a very high ceiling, developmental player a little bit. But after going Jared Verse, let's go get a guy that has absolutely starting tackle ceiling sooner than later in Suamadia. Big-time athlete as well. Philadelphia back on the clock. We got Quinyon Mitchell. We went linebacker. Now, this is a tough one. I like Rosengarten. I think this is probably going to be the round in range that Philadelphia start to look for that Lane Johnson successor. However, for my money, I think a team that could actually use maybe more so the versatility and don't really have a weapon right now that offers the versatility of a Malachi Corley. That is where I would go with the Philadelphia Eagles. I think that Corley gives you that Deebo Samuel type vibe, which I'm sure Howie Roseman has seen enough of Deebo Samuel kind of owning the Eagles a little bit. You're like, yeah, we kind of want that. We don't really have that gadget player anymore. It was Quez Watkins a little bit, but you can get Corley. You can start him in the slot. AJ Brown. I mean, we heard last night during the press conference that it felt like Howie was like, all the offensive guys were gone with our board, so we're happy the defensive guys fell to us at pick 22. What do you mean all the offensive guys were gone? You were targeting offense, seriously trying to get a playmaker there? So that kind of was like the seed that was planted that maybe they are looking for a weapon. And I definitely think Malachi Corley, dog, fits the Eagles' mentality and what we would want to use him in the scheme. I think we can find a role for that, especially with Kellen Moore. 22, we have the Browns. Finally here, making a pick. And maybe it's a slightly hot take because it's not a super value. I'd go Peyton Wilson. The medicals get checked out. Peyton Wilson, day one starter for them at linebacker. S-tier athlete, elite production in college football. But much like Latu, you got to get the medicals. But the medicals get that big green check mark. I think that's a really nice pick in the second round, getting a day one starter for the Cleveland Browns. Now we have the Miami Dolphins. Who do we got now? Yes, the Miami Dolphins got Chop Robinson. Classic. Let's just get a freak athlete here. So they are looking for interior linemen. And that's where you want to go. Cooper Beebe is outstanding. Another big time out. I think he was like a 9-something RAS. How the highest RAS for an interior lineman. And let's just be honest. That's what Dolphins want. They want at every single position, give me the best athlete. And health. That is the pink slips mentality. God bless Mike McDaniel. He probably watches the series. Shout out to him. Now we have Dallas in pick 24. They get a developmental tackle in the first round in Tyler Guyton. Now they have wide receiver, corner, running back as potential needs. And I'm going to be honest. It might be a little rich to go running back right now. But I would go Trey Benson here. I'm very surprised. They got Royce Freeman, Deuce Vaughn in the backfield for a team that absolutely needs to still have an element of the run game to take some of that pressure off Dak Prescott. Because when you put pressure on the shoulder of Dak Prescott, that's when he crumbles. So Trey Benson, 4.3 speed. I think he's getting dogged, a little bit undervalued right now in the draft process. I think this is absolutely the time that you pull the trigger. You'd feel at least decent pulling the trigger on your pick of the litter of the running backs. I think that is a big-time positional need for the Dallas Cowboys. And Benson is that. I'll say, hey, I'll put it this way. I'd be very annoyed with that pick as an Eagle fan. I'm like, oh, great. They got super freak athlete, young running back. That's annoying. So take that for what it is. 25, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers who went Graham Barton, interior lineman, or just lineman. He can play everywhere on the line. I think up next, edge is definitely a need. I'd say who could fit their scheme of the players that are available. Braylon Trice. I mean, if they liked Tryon Shoyinka from Washington, maybe they want to double dip there again. That is a thing. I think Jonah Ellis, also a big time dog. Coming off a 12-sack season. But you know what? I'd go, we'll throw them. Trice played well in the playoffs for Washington. Was their most dangerous pass rusher. Now we have Green Bay, Morgan and Hicks. They got all those weapons. So what is up next for the Green Bay Packers? I think this one here is where you take a little bit of a step back. You can kind of look BPA. And I'm looking at the guys that are here available. And I would say of the corners that are left, yeah, you know what? Rakestraw, top guy still on the board. I know Daniel Jeremiah is a big fan of him. So, hey, we'll throw him a little bit of love there to the corner room. Houston Texans at pick 27. They went Fisk, interior pass rusher. And I think now would be the time that I would go and get a tackle. And for me, the top tackle available is Rosengarten from Washington. Big-time RAS score as well, like a 9.4, 9.5, one of the highest of the tackles. Probably the highest tackle available. That's not a straight, all-out developmental guy. So let's get him and throw that big athlete on the O-line to protect C.J. Stroud. 28, the Bills are back after getting Cooper DeJean. They decided to sit and wait for a wide receiver. And I will say the board kind of dried up a little bit quicker than expected. But Jalen Polk, not worried about that whatsoever. 1,000 yards, another one of those dangerous weapons that we saw at the University of Washington last year. Maybe not Rome Odunze level, but he looks like a guy that can absolutely come in and be a starter sooner than later. And come on, you got Josh Allen. The whole idea when you get a quarterback like a Josh Allen is that he can take pretty solid players and elevate them. You don't always have to throw the premier type pick. And I think the signs of letting Gabe Davis walk and trading away Stephon Diggs, and also trading out of the first round, just even though you had your pick of all the wide receivers, clearly says that is the logic that the Bills are taking. They're taking that. We're going to let Josh Allen elevate these guys. I think Polk is a nice little get. Detroit at pick 29. And they need D-line or edge. So let's see what we got here. Man, I'd go Michael Hall. I'd go Michael Hall for an interior pass rusher. Didn't work out for the guy they got from Washington. Had a bizarre name. I can't remember his name right now at the top of my head. But Michael Hall gives you that interior pass rusher. 6'2", 285. He's only 20 years old, so one of the younger players, so you get a very high ceiling there. The Baltimore Ravens went Nate Wiggins in the first round. That's your classic, like, oh, yeah, of course the Ravens got that guy. And I think I would stay on the D-line. I'm going to get them Rook or Horo. So both of my favorite interior D linemen going back to back. Now, this is also a very annoying pick. Ricky Pearsall, my Gator. I love and I'm stoked that he went in the first round. It's still an absolute bummer that he ended up going to the Niners. Now, the Niners might have more picks than this. It seems like Deebo Samuel or Brandon Ayuk could potentially be on the way out. But I would say looking at this board here, I still think offensive line, gigantic need. And Amigaji, sure, from Yale. I know he's developmental, but I think, at that point, you kind of have to just take the hand that you're dealt and improve that offensive line, especially that right-hand side. And or that guy could be just understudy for Trent Williams. And whenever it's time to move on to Trent Williams, not a lot of tread left on the tire, you can make that move. Finishing up the second round, we have the Kansas City Chiefs going to Xavier Worthy because of course they would. And I think, honestly, looking at this, they need to get a corner. Let's see the corners that are left. Some interesting names there. I think Max Melton would be the next guy I would go. You got it, you lost clearly an absolute stud. Where did he go? What team did he get traded to? Tennessee? Darius Sneed? You got to go find yourself a starter. And Max Melton absolutely crushed the combine process. I think he's a big-time riser. That's where we're going to go. Now we're going to finish up the third round. We're going to go real quick, pick up the pace here just a little bit, starting with the Carolina Panthers. And with that being the case, what do they need? Edge rusher, corner. They could double up at wide receiver. I'm thinking if you need corner, you're not in love with the edge rushers that are available. And again, we went into, Jerron Newton is our pass rush help. So if doubling up at corner is what you need, you got rid of Dante Jackson, your slot. So I'm going to go with my favorite slot in this draft, Mike Sainristil. Former wide receiver out of Michigan, dog, absolute dog. I mean, hey, I'm an Eagles fan. Dog mentality is what we all pride and preach. So, like, when I see that in certain players, I love throwing those on teams that we've kind of built up a little bit of a following here. Obviously, got a lot of Panther fans and Cardinal fans from our last two Madden franchises. I think same show would be very, very exciting for you guys to get. Now we have the Cardinals. Kind of looking at what they're looking at. BPA. Honestly, this is what I was looking at. I mean, go Jonathan Brooks. All due respect to what you got there with James Conner, but Jonathan Brooks, redshirt sophomore, you're getting value there. Absolute value. I think that's probably the best value pick as it stands right there. Another weapon for that offense to continue to give more to Kyler Murray instead of just going Marvin Harrison Jr. and letting your defensive head coach just splurge on the defense. Let's throw another piece in there. Add some more balance to the offense. Get a little bit more upside as James Conner is one of those players. How much tread is left on the tire, truly? Who really knows? 3 of the Commanders. So we got Daniels, Patrick Paul, Chris Braswell. And I think now would be the time we're going to see Jatavian Sanders come off the board. Very talented tight end from Texas. Didn't test as well, but still an absolute ball player. Patriots, pick 4. They got Drake May. They went Ladd McConkey. Now you're kind of looking here on the offensive line a little bit. It's drying up. There's no other way to put it. I don't know if tackle right here, you're going to need to get one of those like maybe late round Bill Belichick type moves. But if there is a New England Patriot player, I think it's Joe Ellis. Another one of those guys, much like McConkey, like a Bill Belichick there, that is when they're running up to the draft podium. Chargers went out all on offense so far, so now I think it'll be time to pivot back to the defensive line. And it's Harbaugh. He's got to get his guy. We're going to go get Chris Jenkins. And I don't know if they have another pick in the third round. I'm not going to lie. We're probably going to try to come back and get Corum, the running back. We have the Giants, who went Neighbors and Jackson Powers Johnson. Quarterback is still a need, but I don't think you're taking a development option here. I would probably pivot towards running back. Corum is there. However, I think, for my money, I would consider Jalen Wright as the option. 1,000 yards, 4.3 speed. Little less of a project. Corum is a weird size. He's like 5'7". I think you get a little bit more of a traditional runner in Jalen Wright, a little bit more of a slasher in Jalen Wright. And, you know, showing by neighbors, they want more athletes. They want more speed on that offense, and you get the speed in Jalen Wright. Back to the Cardinals. Wow, a lot of picks here for the Cardinals. We're going to be back to, we still got another one at 26. So we got the luxury pick of a running back. Got a D-line. Can still look for more edge rush help. Not in love with the board that's still available there. Honestly, I would go BPA again. Don't really need safety. Don't need corner again. I mean, they could honestly double up at corner, but I think you're probably all right there. Kind of sitting and waiting. You know, no one, as long as like there was the arrest that just happened, but I think T'Vondre Sweat still offers some value to that defensive front. Gives you that Jordan Davis type that maybe Jonathan Gannon wants from his time in Philadelphia. So, well, you know what? We'll go and get another value pick from Texas, doubling up on the Longhorns here so far. Now we have the Jets who want Fashanu. There's not really any developmental quarterbacks at this spot to kind of get that Aaron Rodgers successor in place. They need interior line. I like Mahogany a lot. I like him more than Haynes. Safety. Ooh. I'll go Javon Bullard. Get one of them Georgia Bulldogs on the defensive side. You feel pretty safe about that pick. Dallas up. Guyton. Benson. Going all in on the offense so far. I think now is when I would pivot a little bit to safety. And we are going to go out and we're going to get them a big-time athlete at safety. And that is Cole Bishop out of Utah. Newbin absolutely tanked his draft stock with a terrible, terrible pro day. Still a great football player. But someone like Cole Bishop improved his draft stock with like an insane combine. Like a 9.6, 9.7, one of the highest RAS. One of the best athletes at the safety spot. So we'll have him go to the Cowboys. 6'2", 210 as well. That's a big-time athlete. Add some more speed on the back end of that defense. Atlanta at 10. We got quarterback and edge rusher. Maybe we take a look back here at some wide receiver. And we'll go and get them Jermaine Burton. Speed wide receiver, formerly of Georgia. Finished his career with the Alabama Crimson Tide. Another weapon there for that wide receiver room to see if they can flush out beyond just Drake London and Kyle Pitts. Pick 11, the Bears. Caleb Williams, Rome Odunze. Outstanding start to their draft. Now looking for BPA. This is where it gets a little interesting. Edge rush. Yeah, all right, we'll throw in Isaac there. I think edge rush was in play. A lot of people thought maybe a chance they would go Dallas Turner instead of Odunze. But Isaac has got a lot of respect. I think he's, you know, a second, third round pick in that range on The Beast by Dane Brugler. Awesome draft guide from The Athletic. Go check it out if you want a fantastic deep dive. So the value is still there to get someone that can go on the other side of Montez Sweat as part of that pass rush rotation. Denver went Bo Nix. Interesting pick for sure. But I think what we kind of talked about during the draft was I would, no matter the value, you can argue the value all day long. I would rather Bo Nix than Jarrett Stidham and Zach Wilson. And that's kind of the only discussion that really can be had right now for the Broncos. So after that, it does seem like they are kind of open to potentially trading away some wide receivers here. And if that is what they want to do, I like Malik Washington a lot. Arguably one of the hottest coming off a senior season. Was just 110 catches, 1,400, shattered records. I think he's an absolute dog, getting a little bit of slept on right there. So let's go get Bo Nix, a guy that just finds ways to get open, especially when it seems like maybe some trades could happen to that wide receiver room for the Denver Broncos. 13 for the Raiders, Brock Bowers. They got their developmental quarterback. And they are looking at the quarter room where there's still absolutely some big-time value. No, we'll go TJ Tampa. A little bit of a height, weight, speed corner, 6'2", 200 pounds. Ran like 4'4", ain't bad. Good length, can play on the perimeter. Sure, why not? Now we have the Commanders up on the clock, and they've been doing a lot of business here. Quarterback, tackle, edge rush, tight end, linebacker, safety, corner is where we are looking. We'll go Colson. I think Junior Colson, that maybe is a really good value pick. I think a lot of people might have him going in the second round. Some people have him going ahead of Peyton Wilson. Some people have him going ahead of Edgerrin Cooper as well. So kind of falling a lot there. Great value pick potentially for the Commanders. Pick 15 for the Falcons. Another team looking potentially in that secondary And I'm going to go get them Andrew Phillips from Kentucky, another player very high on like Daniel Jeremiah's draft board. And anytime you get those dog SEC type players, they usually are fairly safe picks to translate to the NFL. 16 for the Cincinnati Bengals. They've gone all in on the offensive line. I think now you would maybe consider Theo Johnson at tight end. That's kind of, I think, where we're going to go. In like almost a perfect 10 out of 10 res. S-tier athlete, maybe a little bit Canadian bias here, but I'd love to see him go early and often. Pair with Chase Brown, get some Canadians, so that I'm going to slowly start to root for the Bengals a little more than I already do. All right? Now we have Seattle. They went Byron Murphy. Not really a surprise pick, but maybe slightly. I do think this is where, like, a Spencer Rattler still on the board. Maybe look for him to come in, but they did bring in Sam Howell, maybe as that developmental guy behind Geno Smith. So I would now say this is kind of where you're working. I would go Nubin. I think that we saw what McDonald did last year with Kyle Hamilton, who was not the fastest, didn't crush the combine, didn't have a bad combine, not nearly as bad as Nubin, but the idea that like Hamilton was a little lesser of an athlete than we thought, still thrived in that scheme. So someone like Nubin, outstanding player, maybe not the athlete we thought. There was a lot of turnover at that safety room for the Seahawks, so I think I'm going to have them go Nubin there as a nice value. We have 18 for the Colts, Latu and Franklin. Now I think another team will take value of the corners that are still available, and I will give them an outside player in Kyrie Jackson. I think the Colts have been a very high RAS team. They want the big-time athletes, and you get height, weight, speed in Jackson out of Oregon. 19, we have the Rams. They went Verse and Suamadia, another team that I think also will be looking at these corners that are available. And I'll go Chris Abrams Drain. One of my favorite corners. Super productive. Absolute. His PBUs, I don't know that they got his PBU numbers, but he pretty much averaged double digits, I felt like, the last 3 years in a row in the SEC. So I'll take that all day for the Rams that has a pretty good hit rate getting like mid-round, late-round corners and churning them into starters. 20 for the Steelers. I think another team that's going to be like, all right, what do we got here at corner? And these are the guys that are left. I think if you want ball production, you're going to look at Elijah Jones. 5 picks, 9 PBUs, 6'2", tested very well. Can play on the outside of Boston College. Cleveland Browns. They went linebacker. They're throwing running back up here as a potential need for them. And the running backs, there's still some good value. Guys that I like. But I also think maybe we'll show a little love on the D-line here. And if we are showing love on the D-line, look at the players that are available. Don't always agree with these rankings. But I guess if your argument is higher ceiling, that's where you're getting in the redshirt sophomore of Mason Smith. There's definitely discussion of whether or not he's even the best LSU D-lineman right now, like pro ready, which I think is valid. But the ceiling is there that separates him from the other D tackles that are available. Same with Leonard Taylor, big time recruit as well. But we'll go Mason Smith and throw him there on the interior. Texans now up at pick 22. They went Fisk and Rosengarten. I think they're also looking for corner and potentially a safety. And let's go get them Cam Kitchens. Great value there. Suffered a brutal injury last season. I think maybe some of that could have been lasting over and why he didn't test very, very good. But the football player, the tape, is outstanding. 23 for the Dallas Cowboys. And they need wide receiver help, potentially. And we'll go get them Jalen McMillan, another one of those just ridiculous Washington wide receivers. Michael Penix had outstanding weapons. And there's a reason why all those guys, I think, are going to be gone by day 2. That is why Washington was so goddamn good last year. All those guys together. McMillan, Polk, Odunze, Penix, Johnson, the running back, had some good dogs on the O-line as well. It was a great offense. Great era if you were a Washington Huskies fan. Pick 24 for the Green Bay Packers. We got their safety. We got wide receiver, edge rusher. We got an edge. Austin Booker. More of a developmental guy. I know Kamara tested really well, coming off 13 sacks for Colorado State. That's where I'll go. I'll go Muhammad Kamara. 13 sacks. Big dog. Watched a couple games. Remember the big game against Colorado? Kind of popped off there a little bit. So we'll get some pass rush help, part of that rotation. Pick 25 for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We went tackle and edge. They are now looking for potentially a linebacker. And if I am looking for a linebacker, a guy that can come in, athletically do what Devin White did, that is Trevin Wallace. All day out of Kentucky. Big-time athlete. A guy that, third, fourth round, I'd love for my Philadelphia Eagles to go get. Especially if you decide not to go Edgerrin Cooper and wait a little bit for a linebacker. He would be the linebacker that I would love to see wearing midnight green. Now we have the Cardinals back on the clock for pick 26. And I really still feel like they're just BPA. Whoever's still there, they'll be fine, falling into their lap. Kind of looking at how they're building their defense here. I think you could still absolutely consider pass rush because you can never have enough pass rush. You could go interior on the line. There's some dogs there as well. I don't know why tight ends there. You just had like a breakout tight. I would say I would consider absolutely going pass rush. And for their front, Dorless out of Oregon makes a lot of sense. Big time athlete as well. Kind of similar game to Darius Robinson. And why not get 2 of those? If that's what you're looking for in a pass rusher, there's still a lot of value there in the 3rd round. Packers are back up here at 27. I mean, maybe just double up on the safeties. Get Kalen Bullock out of, there you go. Completely overhaul that safety room. I know they let Darnell Savage walk, and Bullock's more of a Savage type than Jaden Hicks is, but completely revamp that secondary. I think most Packer fans would be cool with that. 28, we have the Bucks back on the clock. And I would say, looking at this, honestly, I would go Blake Corum. The value is there. Add that to the running back rotation. Get a good 1-2 punch in that backfield to take some more pressure off Baker Mayfield. We have the Ravens, who have gone corner and D-line, all on the offense. And they're looking for a wide receiver. And I would say if I'm looking for a wide receiver at this spot, we got offensive line. They lost a guard. I'll go Christian Haynes. They lost like Simpson right at guard. So let's just kind of build up the trenches there a little bit. It's always a spot that the Ravens try to prioritize a little bit. They never have like a shit O-line. Injuries could kind of decimate them a little bit, but it feels like on paper, they always like to reinforce and invest in that spot. We have at 3:30 clock. The Niners are back on the clock. Safety corner is where we are looking. I like Malik Mustafa. I think we go that all day long. Was a member of the Bruce Feldman's Freak List. Dog out of Wake Forest. And I assume, the future of that, you got Hufanga, you got Jair Brown, and you throw someone like Mustafa who's going to be able to contribute on special teams right away. Don't know why safety was a need, but Mustafa at that range is good value if it truly is a need, and this site's not lying to me. 31, we have the Buffalo Bills, and we're going to look on the defensive line, and we're going to get them Leonard Taylor, high-ceiling developmental player, kind of somewhat similar in the mold of what they got when they drafted Greg Rousseau, and they reached his potential, so I think McDermott will see another opportunity here. 32 for the Jags. We've gone wide receiver and corner, and they're looking for tackle, and we're going to go grab Blake Fisher, developmental tackle there out of Notre Dame. 33, we have the Cincinnati Bengals, and they are looking on the D-line, potentially an edge rusher. We're going to go grab them, Austin Booker, 6'6", 245, prototypical size, 8 sacks for Kansas last year, especially with the rumors that Trey Hendrickson might be looking for a way out, which is kind of surprising. Would be very annoying, personally. But we're rocking and rolling. Now we have the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they're looking for a strong safety. Don't really love the guys that are available there. They're looking for a D lineman. And I would say if you're looking for a D lineman at this spot, I would go Dwayne Carter out of Duke. Was a heart and soul of that Duke team that overperformed last year. Unfortunately, they lost their quarterback to Notre Dame, which is a little bit of a bummer. But Duke was great and very stout defensively, and he was kind of the star of the show there. 35, we have the Rams. And they're looking for some wide receiver love. And I would love to see them go get Jacob Cowick. I loved him at UTEP, transferred to Arizona. Big time speed, 5'11", 175. Kind of niche, but those niche undersized wide receivers, McVay likes them. So it kind of ticks the bill of Cowing and gives you some deep threat ability. 36, the final pick. We have the Commanders on the clock. And what are they going to go? They're looking for a DB here, apparently. And I would say of the corners that are available, that I would feel the most, like, let's pull the trigger. That's the guy that we want. I would be going with Jerrion Jones, 6 feet, 190. Insane routes, like a 9.5. Put up big-time speed. 3 interceptions last year. He's been a ball hawk, coming off a big year. For Florida State, graded out incredible. Like a 90 PFF grade. So we're going to throw him in to the Commanders. So there you go, fellas. Had some fun here. Big, long-ass video. Hope you enjoyed our Day 2 mock draft. Again, tonight, live on the channel, we are going to be streaming these second rounds. So come on, hang out. If you want to chill, we get 2 Philadelphia Eagle picks, which I'm sure I'm going to lose my mind if those picks suck. Maybe we trade up. Keep the dream alive for DEJEAN. Let's keep that going. Keep that movement going until he inevitably gets drafted somewhere else. But thank you guys very much for watching. As always, your first time stopping by, don't be afraid to hit that subscribe button. Smash the like button if you've enjoyed. Until next time, it's your boy C4. Say peace out, love ya. Have a good one.